Let's meet Doug Ducey, Republican candidate for state treasurer of Arizona. Doug, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, John, thanks for having me.
Well, you know, you listen to your opponent, and, people would think you belong in jail or in a gulag someplace. What the hell's going on with this race?
Well, you know, he likes to bring up a lot of negative distractions and not talk about the issues. He doesn't like the fact that I'm a newcomer to this and that I have no political resume. I've spent my entire adult life in the private sector with Cold Stone Creamery. That's the Arizona company that I built, and he tries to turn it into a negative attack and a smear, and I don't think it's going to work.
I think people want a responsible state treasurer. I think Dean Martin's been responsible. I think he's been the canary in the coal mine to warn the legislature we're out of money, and for God's sake, the state's broke. At least pay attention. I think the next treasurer ought to be that canary in the coal mine. I think they ought to be an individual that understands numbers, that can actually keep the books of the state, and obviously create transparency of the corporations of the state. Tell us what you'll do if you're the next state treasurer.
Well, I think you're right on that, John. I think that is the role of the state treasurer, is to be that canary in the coal mine. The state treasurer is the state's responsible banker, and I'm proud to have Dean Martin's endorsement. I had it in the primary because he saw that somebody with a finance background and a business degree can make a difference at the state capitol. And if I'm elected, I'm going to do three things. The first is to be a good and prudent manager of the state's money and investments. I mean, that's job number one for the state treasurer. And a Ducey administration will be about safe and solid investments. But the two things that I'll do in addition to that is, number one, I'll bring complete clarity to the state's numbers. We spend in K-12 education, higher learning, corrections, and access health care. I'll bring all those numbers to light in an easily searchable and understandable website. And the last thing I'll do is work with our governor to get the state's economy headed in the right direction. I'm a business person who understands how entrepreneurs think, and there's no reason why the state treasurer can't be part of that solution.
Your opponent says he's going to be an auditor and start auditing all the state agencies. I thought we had an auditor general to do that.
You know, John, we've got an auditor general to do that. What he wants to do is grow the size of government. He wants to grow the size of the treasurer's office. And we know that we have independent, nonpartisan, non-elected officials to audit elected officials. When you have an elected official auditing other elected officials, what you get is the mess that we've had up here in Maricopa County for so long. And I don't see why anyone would want to bring that kind of conflict to state government that doesn't benefit the citizens and the taxpayers.
Well, I think we know what it is to have a state treasurer that is incompetent and almost a criminal. We had that before Martin, and I think we know what it is to have a state treasurer who's responsible and open, and I think extremely reliable and credible, as we had with Dean Martin. I think that's what we need for the next 4 years. I would suggest that transparency is absolutely a key. You're handling a tremendous amount of the public's money. So let's talk about the right of the public to know what's happening with their money.
Well, the public has an absolute right to know what is going on with their money, and that's why plank number 2 in my platform is this idea. I've been using the word clarity, John, but you could say transparency just as well. Every dollar, every tax dollar, both state and federal, flows through the treasurer's office, and I want to bring each one of those transactions to light. Dean Martin's already put all the data in there, so if you go on the treasurer's website, you can check out azcheckbooks.com. All of the data is there. What I want to do is turn the data into easily understandable and searchable information in a very clear website. Nobody's ever done this in the past. Part of the reason is it will upset the legislature, it will upset the governor, because the citizens will know where the dollars are spent. But I think that's the job of any responsible banker. That's what I'll do, and I'm going to get started on that as soon as I'm elected. And that will be a service to the taxpayer forevermore. Nobody will ever be able to take those numbers down, and I'm looking forward to bringing complete clarity and transparency to the treasurer's office and state budget.
Yeah, Doug, I think that's really important. The state treasurer does not work for the governor. You're not an employee of the legislature. You are an employee of the people of Arizona. It is their money that you're handling, and their ability to see where that money goes, obviously the return on their money, and the responsibilities of the state treasurer is to the people of Arizona. And we've had treasurers responsible to others other than the people of the state, and it never worked out very well. I mean, there's a fiduciary responsibility to the people of Arizona. Every one of them, Democrat, Republican, Independent, I don't care what you are, that's who the treasurer works for.
You're absolutely right, John. You know the office well, and you're right. It's a constitutional officer. It's third in line to the governor, but it doesn't report to the governor. It doesn't report to the legislature. It reports to the people of Arizona, and the treasurer exists to serve the people of Arizona. And that's the spirit that I want to bring down there. As somebody who's never been in elective office his entire life, has only been a business person in the private sector, I want to go to the state capitol and be part of the solution as we get our state headed in the right direction. And it's going to take individuals that will serve the taxpayer and not play the games that people have played in the past to get the state moving forward again.
Doug, why did this become such a bloodbath, do you think? And it has been a pretty bitter campaign as people have followed this throughout the state.
John, I think what you're seeing is what happens when a business person enters politics against somebody who's a professional political insider. There's a real sense of entitlement among the political class, and they don't like to see outsiders that have been in the private sector come and play in their sandbox. And I think this is what they do to a business person to try to get him to step out of the race or to kill his reputation or to personally destroy him. And I'm not going to let them do that to me. I'm not going to let my opponent do that to me. I think people around the state know me. I came here in 1982. I didn't know one person. I built a business here, of which I'm very proud. And I think that's why it became a bloodbath, because this is what political insiders do to keep outsiders out of what they want to achieve.
I noticed you got the endorsement of the Arizona Daily Star. A lot of people say, well, that's a Democratic newspaper. It's a liberal left-wing paper. But they say you are the most qualified candidate to become Arizona's next treasurer, talking about a degree in finance from ASU, and, of course, the former CEO of Cold Stone Creamery. And now, as chairman, I believe, of iMemories, digitized home movies. But, again, winning the endorsement of this paper here in southern Arizona, I think is quite a compliment.
Well, thank you. And I felt like they treated me very fairly. They brought me in an interview process. I, of course, am conservative and have conservative values fiscally, but the state treasurer is about the most nonpartisan office in state government. So they interviewed me on what I wanted to do, what I wanted to accomplish, and I was proud to receive the Arizona Daily Star's endorsement and the Arizona Republic, in addition to the Arizona and Tucson Chamber of Commerce. You know, you just don't get those kind of endorsements as an outsider unless you are bringing real business experience. So I don't know about the political leanings of all the papers in the state, but I'll tell you, they all thoroughly interviewed myself and my opponent, and I won all those endorsements.
Say that your opponent came up with not the idea, but the situation in which you failed to pay the property tax on your home for 3 years, and of course you paid off the tax liens. Let's go into that and clear that up for once and for all here before this November 2nd election. What happened there?
Sure, John, and that's a good question. Now, that wasn't the taxes on my home. That was the tax on a personal piece of property where I did not live. The tax payments were late. The taxes are paid in full. And I just said, I didn't make any excuses on that. I said I made a mistake there. The taxes are paid in full. He's hit me on the late payment. I'm not going to make any excuse on that. I just can tell you that the way that my personal bills were handled versus the way I handled my business, I'm going to bring the business approach to state government, and the person that missed on the personal bills will not be working down at state government. But it was a late payment. The taxes are paid in full. And he tried to create that as a sideshow to say that I was disqualified in some way because payments were late. I was upfront about it. That happened before the primary, and the voters gave me an over 20% win in the primary. So I think they saw what the truth was there.
As you make the decisions to invest the state's money, what will guide you in really what is a very difficult investing climate here?
Well, number one, John, it's got to be about safety first. I mean, these are not my dollars. These are taxpayer dollars. They include the state sales tax. They include the state income tax. It's like a big bank account with no FDIC insurance. So it's got to be safety first. And the same with the state land and down the trust fund. That's a little bit more complicated. But when the state sells land, the proceeds come in, and the value of those proceeds go to help fund education. So my philosophy is going to be around safe and solid investments. I'm not going to take undue risk with taxpayer dollars. I want to protect the principal and have a return so that we can see those funds grow but do it in the most risk-free possible investment.